This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Speak Up Effective Communication. This show focused on elevating our communication skills in the auto repair industry. I'm your host, Craig O'Neill, and in our episode today, which is titled Show Up and Show Out, I have two guests, my friends and fellow Toastmasters from Grand Rapids Toastmasters Club 404, Dylan JC. Hello, Dylan.
Hey, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And of course, Evan Wisner.
Glad to be here again, Craig.
Oh, welcome back. Loyal listeners will recognize Evan already. We also both know, Evan and I know, that you are going to gain a lot from meeting Dylan today. Well, here's the thing. Today, we're discussing the recent experience that Dylan had at the area level speech contest for Toastmasters International. Today, we're going to dive into that. Yeah, so competitive speaking is a real thing. As you'll discover, the competition, in my opinion, is simply a framework for what a Toastmasters club really has in terms of value and how people come together and we support each other. And yeah, there's still a competitive outlet for professional development. Pretty cool. As with each episode, we have a word of the day. And today's word is inimitable. We're going to define that word for you after we hear a word from our sponsors. Looking to take your shop to the next level of quality service, team culture, and overall profitability? At the Institute, we provide personalized coaching that aligns with your goals of financial stability, excellent customer service, and employee satisfaction. Our priority is helping you establish significant and sustainable progress. We work with you to create strategies that reduce the stress of running your business, improve your quality and performance, and optimize your profitability. Experience the benefits of professional coaching by visiting wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment. Hey friends, as you know, I'm a proud member of the AutoFlow team, and let me tell you, we've changed how business is done for auto shops everywhere. We support your client experience before, during, and after the work is done. Imagine this: timely updates sent directly to your clients, branded digital vehicle inspections, and seamless communication from start to finish. That's why shops love AutoFlow. And hey, with those 5-star reviews rolling in, you'll wonder how you ever managed without us. Take an important next step and take your auto shop to the next level. Visit www.autoflow.com. Get on board with an AutoFlow trial. Are you ready to meet your perfect auto repair shop management software partner? Well, say farewell to the days of transactional relationships and hello to a true partnership that elevates your business. The #1 all-in-one solution is AutoLeap. You're not just getting software, you're gaining a dedicated ally committed to your success. AutoLeap will help you sell more, save time, and delight your customers at every turn. From scheduling appointments to creating estimates, generating invoices, managing technicians, and seamlessly syncing with QuickBooks to keep your records updated. Experience the difference a true partnership makes. Visit AutoLeap.com and book a demo today. AutoLeap, your trusted partner for success. Want to see your auto repair shop thrive? Are you looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Let ShopDog Marketing be your guide. Our customer-first approach, combined with AI-driven creative content, ensures top rankings. Dominate mobile first and voice search with our specialized expertise. Reach out to ShopDog Marketing today and start growing your business. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit shopdogmarketing.com. Inbound has exclusively served independent auto repair shops with expert communication solutions for years. Our robust VoIP platform ensures you stay connected while our industry-leading AI analytics take your business to the next level. We provide the tools you need to understand your customers and optimize every interaction. Choose Inbound for proven expertise and unmatched innovation. Visit callinbound.com and discover the difference we can make. All right, we're back. And today's word of the day, inimitable, is an adjective. Inimitable describes someone or something that is impossible to copy or imitate. I think it's an appropriate word for the conversation that we're having today, talking about our speech contest and the area level for Toastmasters International. Both of my guests have competed this year. Club 404, it was Dylan JC. Dylan, we've been talking about this now, and I have to know, how did we start on the contest path?
It all began, I guess, when I first joined Toastmasters, was to overcome a fear of, I guess, social situations in general. And after a bit spending time with the club and in the club, I became pretty comfortable doing the public speaking thing. I wondered if I was comfortable speaking or if I was comfortable speaking to the people in our club. And when I heard about a contest, I was like, this is something new. This is going to be in front of a new audience. Perhaps I kind of imagined it would be a larger audience than it actually was. But I guess that worked into my favor because I hyped it up, and then it ended up being a more intimate setting rather than what I was exactly expecting. But when Evan introduced the idea of a contest, I was like, this is a new way to challenge myself, and it could be something good for me, a new way to grow.
Nice. Well said. The contest was unique this year, and Evan, you've done them in the past. So the difference was this is really the first one that's been in person since COVID, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true.
At this level.
Yeah, the last time they had an in-person one was February of 2019. And I think they finished that out in person, but then it's been online since then till now.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I always, when I hear speech contest, I'm thinking of a large auditorium. So the online experience isn't something that I never even felt like putting my hat in the ring for doing the speech contest, because doing it on a screen like this, I mean, there's fun things to do, like a podcast on a screen, but a speech contest is meant to be an in-person experience. That's how I always pictured it. Dylan, what was the room like to you when you first saw the room that you'd be in?
So, yeah, I was definitely picturing, as I've performed at the Comedy Project, and It's a very standard, you have a big stage, and then everyone else is seated down below you, and you have stage lights in your face, and that is more of what I was imagining in my head, working up to the event, is I was going to be on the stage, and I guess part of what fed into that is seeing YouTube videos of competitors in previous years when they've done the speech competition for Toastmasters. They're always on this big stage, lights. You can see the back of everyone's head. It looks like a sea of people. But I walk in and it's just this, it's not much bigger than our club space, really. There's a few dozen people in the audience, and I could see everybody. It was very close and intimate, and it was shocking, but in a good way.
Nice. Now, it's well put. And I want to save some of the suspense for it. This was a very proud weekend for Club 404 to be there and to see Dylan. What place did you take in the contest?
I took first place for our area.
Heck yeah. Now, that was really great seeing it. Some areas, they didn't have a lot of contestants. There's only one by default. There's another area, I think two of them, if I remember right, had 2 people in it. And then ours had 3 contestants.
You had the best competition by far. That like the other people who you were speaking against gave great speeches, and there was legitimate, where, how are we evaluating this? How's this getting picked? That definitely played into your favor.
Right. I absolutely agree. And I don't think I would have won proudly by default.
No.
So I'm really happy that I had competition, and I'm even more happy that it was good competition, because that makes me feel more validated.
Yeah, that was our area 12 was our area. Yeah, and there was 2 areas with 2 people in it. Yeah, so this is the thing. I feel like we had a pretty good turnout there for Club 404. Area 12 is pretty engaged anyways, but our club in particular, kind of unique. I'll brag on our club for just a minute. That's one of the things that kept me going in Toastmasters, the fact that Club 404, really cool group, a lot of fun, and they turned out. And Dylan, I know that was a big part of your experience as well, seeing all the club members there.
Absolutely. I think that's what made it so emotional for me, because I'm a very competitive guy by nature. I like winning. Winning is fun. I think we all do to some extent. But when I saw what I think we had like almost a dozen people, just us, I think it was 9 people show up for Club 404. That's an emotional moment, because y'all could have done anything with your Saturday, anything at all.
Yes.
With a Saturday morning, it was several hours we spent there, but y'all came to see me give a performance, and that means a lot to me. And especially seeing the contrast that not everybody really had that. I think there was even one guy who seemed like he showed up by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me realize that is really something to be grateful for. It was a pleasant thing to look out into the audience and see familiar faces. It gave me more confidence, and I could see the smiling familiarity there, and it was great for me.
No, it's really great for us too. I'll speak for Evan on this too, and let you speak to this as well. But that watching someone that we've seen, Dylan, now we've been in the club a little bit longer than Dylan. We remember when Dylan was brand new to the club, as we remember being new to the club ourselves. And you've seen progress, right, Evan? And then you see him up there doing the contest. It's like, oh man, there's a whole different intensity for this. Like, I can't ever imagine myself getting so excited about a speech contest before, but because we know the people and their journey, beautiful.
For me, there was a huge roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
Because I've been the only one for the club for the last 5 years to compete.
Yes.
And to see someone to be there and support someone else was an amazing experience. And I had a bittersweet little pang of envy that he got to do it in person and that everybody showed up. I did have one of the years that I did it online. There was like 7 people who came and watched it online, to their credit. So I know, like, that is definitely Club 404 having showed up for me too. But it was very emotional to have it in person and then have all these people be there and to be a part of it. I was grateful that to be on the other side and to have an amazing, excellent speaker that I was there supporting.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah. And this has been fun because, Dylan, you've been on a journey, not just with speaking, but your physical fitness too has been inspiring other members in the club as well. Like, Shane isn't with us today, but you've been running with Shane. There's professional development happening at not just the speaking level anymore. We're actually working with each other to develop our health and well-being.
I'm a strong believer in be the person that you want other people to be as well. And I want to see everybody live their happiest, healthiest life possible. Mm-hmm. And I remember at some point last year when I first started running with Shane, he really had himself kind of put in this box where it's like, I am this age, he's in his 40s. He's like, I am this age. I'm only capable of what people in this age bracket are capable of. And when I mentioned, like, we should run a marathon, which is considered like that's the pinnacle of running, essentially. Like, there are ultra marathons, but in most people's minds, the marathon, that's it. And he was like, there's no way I could do that. And I was like, we'll see. And then Shane ran a marathon, so we learned what he's capable of. And I like to see that in other people.
That's fun. That's why I was having fun in the speech contest too. So just for the sake of our audience here, one of the things I remember, Dylan, when you were brand new early on in the Toastmasters, you had natural humor, a charisma that was always very good, but you gave very short, very concise speeches, almost like you were not struggling to stretch it out, but like you got your point across and you're good. And that was it. Kind of an abrupt closing sometimes. It's like, oh, that was it. Oh, but it was
right.
good.
When I first started embarking on this speaking journey, I've always been a writer, or I've been a writer for a very long time, but I've written for different purposes. I've written for journaling. I've written poetry. I've written for informational purposes to teach other people things. But when I started writing speeches, it was trying to weave in different styles of writing. And it took me a while to figure out how that works exactly. And I was like, should it be more informative? Should it be more on the poetic side? How does writing work for speaking? Because it is a very unique style. Yeah. And it took me a while to figure that out. And that's why almost like my content seemed a little bit awkward, because I was trying to shoehorn different styles of writing into this speaking thing.
Yeah, you've experimented with a lot of different styles, from comedy and all sorts of things. And you do improv now too with Shane at the comedy club, as you mentioned. So let me ask this though, and Evan, I want your opinion on this too. Did the topic for a speech contest, did that topic come to mind quickly, or was that a first barrier that you had to overcome?
Are you asking me or?
Hey, either one. Yeah, Evan, why don't you go ahead and take that first?
I'm gonna let Dylan go about this one because it's fresh, and I want to hear what he has to say first.
Sure. No.
So this one was actually fun. The topic in the speech that I delivered at the contest was written in like 2 days, and I felt very pressured. And honestly, I feel like I do pretty well under pressure. And I almost feel like I do better the higher the pressure is. And when Evan announced this speech contest at the club and he gave his speech on it, he texted me afterwards. He was like, you got like a week to write, practice, rehearse, and deliver a speech. And I was just like, I don't know if I could do that. You know, normally I stretch my speeches out. I write them. I go over them in my head for at least a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. But I think it turned out so well because there was such a strict deadline placed on it. And I was like, okay, what is a valuable life lesson that I've learned? What's a story I can attribute to it? And how can I make it applicable to other people?
Yeah. So your story, the title of the speech I'll share was Must Be Nice. Man, it was a well-organized speech. I loved the flow. I wish I had the full recording. Unfortunately, we didn't get the button pressed in the front row until 20 seconds after the intro. I should still try to attach that. Maybe. I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing that speech at some point, but maybe we should discuss that. But boy, what I loved was the full circle element that you brought in. It's kind of an emotional piece. I don't know. Tell us a little bit about what you were thinking with that particular speech.
Okay, so Must Be Nice is, I believe it's an issue that it's a speech that addresses the issue of envy or jealousy that we feel. And I feel like that issue has become more and more common with the invention of the internet and social media. We have more access to see people who have things that we want and things that we don't have. And the more I talk to people, the more I kind of see that idea of must be nice. So my life is unsatisfying because I don't have this thing that other people have. That's the whole idea of must be nice, is if we can try and actively fight this idea that our lives would be better if we had this thing that other people have, and we just learn to enjoy the things that we have, we would be happier people. And it's a long work in progress. You can't hear a speech like this and immediately be like, oh, my life is all better. But it's bringing to light a new perspective and a new idea. And hopefully over time, people can integrate that and become a little bit more satisfied with what they have instead of looking at what others have.
Well, Evan, I'd like to hear you speak to the content of the speech itself. And if that was a variable that you think in the victory, as I do believe that is an element.
Oh, for sure. The content is incredibly important. And I have seen it win and lose for people in the past, especially. When Dylan first gave this speech, the quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy" by Teddy Roosevelt was the first thing that like popped into my head about how that's like a very common thing we reach for, like comparing ourselves to others, and how that robs you of your individual joy of the things you do have and the things that are unique for you. And I felt like he did a great job of teasing it and then giving us a story to follow and bringing it all together. And there is limitations on like what you can say at Toastmasters. You can't be vulgar. You can't talk about inappropriate things.
Right.
And so sometimes it almost kind of can limit you to, okay, what is going to really grab the audience attention? And I think he did a great job with this, and the content definitely aided in that process. When I speak and have spoke in the past, I actually, real quick, so Dylan, when he was saying that, when I told him he had a week to like formulate this whole thing, I honestly, I told him like, yeah, we'll give you any help, any support you can that you need. And he was just like off and running. Like he was already, when I'm like, hey, like, do you want us to go through this? And he's like, yeah, I already did this. I already redid it. I've done these things. I want to give like a whole bunch of them. I was like, okay, like he was already there. I felt like that energy came through in his speech of like, I want to give this speech. For me, one thing that has been incredibly important in my speaking journey is deciphering what is worth speaking about.
Yes. Not everything written deserves to be written. Not everything out there is really something that needs to be discussed and talked about. And we deal with shenanigans and all sorts of nonsense all the time. The world's full of stuff, and my attention span is broken like any other human being today. And so when a speech topic that is really of substance and value that comes in, I think it snaps attention. Like you stop even fixating on some of the other things we're trained to look for in Toastmasters because the subject is so relevant.
And he follows my golden rule, which is always speak about something you love. because that if you're speaking about something else, like people don't necessarily want to listen as much. But if you're speaking about something you love, we love to participate in the joy and the love and the connection that person has with whatever that topic happens to be.
And that's the thing, is like, we love the people, is the hope that I would have that anyone in an audience wants someone to be successful. So seeing Dylan up there, you expressed some elements of vulnerability in your speech. I think there was some really good points that you made. It. You had a situation where someone had told you it must be nice to, like, you had an easy road, which you did not. And you tied it together with the fact that a friend of yours you thought had an easy road and he did not, and how you received that revelation in two different ways. Of one, like, gosh, this person doesn't understand me. And then, there's this like moment where you had made the same mistake. And that is an honesty that comes through, because it allows everybody else in the audience to feel that same thing. And that gives us an immediate takeaway that everyone gets to walk away with. That's substance. This was a speech with substance.
Right. I want to address the vulnerability comment first. Vulnerability was something that I definitely had to work up to. That was not something that came natural, and I imagine for a lot of speakers, that's not an easy thing to do. I remember several of my first speeches, you mentioned that I had this natural comedic flow to it. I feel like comedy for me, at least at first, was trying to subvert the attention away from me. I was like, if I can make these people laugh at this funny idea, it helps me defend myself from being a little bit more open. And then as I kind of let go of the comedy, my speeches became a little bit more informational. And then the information revealed more about me, and that was a stepping stone to reveal more about me in a more direct manner. Now, as far as passion is concerned, I think passion is absolutely paramount when it comes to speaking. You'll hear people talk about, content is very important, delivery is very important, but when you truly care about something, both of those things should come natural.
Can I ask a question, Craig?
Please.
How did you address fear in this process?
Fear to me has always been something that I've shied away from for a very long time. But within the last few years of my life, I realized that it should be something that I should be chasing after. And once that kind of clicked in my mind, and I was like, I should be running towards fear, not away from it. I've seen more character development, and that has led to a feedback loop. Kind of like when you start an exercise regimen. You may not feel the healthiest, you may not feel the strongest, but you do this thing that's uncomfortable over and over, and it validates you. Oh, I'm getting stronger. Oh, I'm feeling better. I'm getting faster. Whatever it is that validates you. And that's what fear has been for me. I felt the fear. I ran towards it. I said, okay, now I'm stronger as a person. I feel better about myself. And then it kept being its own intrinsic value at that point.
What are some of the fears, like the specific fears, that came up for you as a part of this competition process?
Great question.
So the obvious one is starting speaking. As a very strong introvert, that was a big hurdle for me to overcome, is to give the first speech. That icebreaker speech when it comes to Toastmasters is, a lot of people will say it's the hardest one, but it's also the most empowering one, because you don't know what to expect. You give all this great feedback. People are telling you, you look confident, you look wonderful up there. And that makes you want to keep going. As far as the actual contest goes, it goes back to what I said about me wondering if I'm comfortable speaking now, or if I'm comfortable speaking to the group. And knowing that a vast majority of my audience in the contest would be complete strangers, it almost put me back to that original feeling of the icebreaker speech.
Thank you for sharing.
No, that's great. Yeah, because one of the things we discussed before is that when you're doing things that make you feel uncomfortable, that's something that you've tried to do for yourself. And you mentioned something very important to what I do through this podcast and some of the courses that me and my boss both teach as well. Is like, my boss, he's an introvert. There's lots of introverts in our industry. There's lots of introverts in any industry, and they don't ever come out of that sometimes. And that's kind of a bummer, because there's some pretty smart people. I try to think of my boss's brain. He's a brilliant developer. He's a developer of people as well. I always say, boy, if he never went to Toastmasters years ago, I think he's been in there like 20 years now, and he wasn't confident enough to speak up and get out there and do things, boy, we'd be missing out.
Right. I recently thought of something is that you should be afraid of the introvert that becomes good at extroverted things.
Oh yeah. No, it was funny. This week I was actually looking at like one of the authors that I really loved. I found out like I was looking at Thomas Cahill, How the Irish Saved Civilization author and all that stuff. He passed away in 2022. I had never heard of that, but I've been waiting for book 7 of his Hinges of History series to come out. Right. And I was just thinking about that as we were getting ready for this podcast. And I was like, man, how sad it is when someone who has been speaking for a while or writing things down for a while, all of a sudden the voice is gone. It's like they die with words in them still. And that's so many people all the time, every day, is how I feel about it. Man, I'm just super proud. I felt pride of a type that is really rare. I think seeing you up there doing a speech, conquering something I know that's a little bit outside of the realm of comfort for you. You pushed through it and you did so well. Like, I wouldn't be talking about this if it was an easy win either. This is actually pretty exciting. I think the whole club's planning on going down to the next contest for the district levels in Holland later in, it was March 28 or something like that. It wasn't 29, March 29.
Oh yeah, one of the reasons I gave this speech on Tuesday, a completely different speech, it was more of like a expressing gratitude, this past Tuesday, is I wanted to inspire more people to show up. I think the idea of most people in their mind, they're like, oh, I see speaking every single Tuesday. Why would I go see more speaking? But I kind of wanted to evoke this sense of pride within themselves. It's not just me winning. You are a part of it. And you get to be more a part of it if you show up and watch it happen.
Yeah, those that weren't there, Evan, you saw it too. I honestly think it was like a masterclass and like an award acceptance speech because the ownership for the victory went to everyone in the club.
I appreciated your take on that. I have always felt that true accomplishment is acknowledging that you never do anything by yourself. That no matter what, no matter how hard you try, you still have to acknowledge everyone in your life and everything that's ever brought you to where you are. And you did such an excellent job of highlighting all of the ways in which the club has supported your journey in this. And that was a fantastic speech in and of itself.
Yeah, truly. No, everyone was feeling the love on that one. And that was what was so great about it. And I think anyone who wasn't there wishes they were now too. So they probably won't miss the next one.
Right. That was the goal. That was the primary thing. And the primary goal was to elicit the emotion. And that emotion is what I'm hoping will drive them to show
Absolutely.
up and show support.
There's something about that, though, because one of the things you specifically mentioned in your speech to the club on Tuesday was that you appreciated how everyone played a role in that. And for a lot of the members of the club, especially the younger members, it's just that little slip of paper that after anyone gives a speech in our club, that a cup goes around, you put your feedback in there. And on that slip of paper, all we ever write is one grow, one glow, something that could be improved and something that really stood out to you as very good. And it's hard for a lot of people to give that at first because there's the question, who am I to criticize this guy up there speaking? And I'm so new to this thing. I don't know what I would tell a guy. I thought that was great. And they struggle to find a grow, or maybe they just say nice speech or anything else. What I want to know, what feedback, when you first gave, especially the speech, it must be nice in front of the club as you were preparing for this contest, what pieces of feedback did you find most helpful from that?
So I kind of want to skirt around that question a little bit, but
sidestep is always okay.
It addresses it in an indirect way. I think when I receive feedback, I like to kind of spot patterns in the feedback because that's where I think the true gold in feedback really is, because people are going to feel different ways on different days. Sometimes people are going to wake up, they're going to be cranky, they're going to be more critical. Sometimes they're going to wake up, they're going to feel great, and they may not even point out a single grow in your speech. But I think the grows that I get most often are the ones that have guided my speaking journey the most. And also the glows that I get most often are the ones that give me the most confidence. So I think to somewhat address that is vocal variety is the big one that I've always received. It's made me so aware that it's not just one guy's opinion. You know, that's one feedback is one guy's singular opinion. But when you start seeing that compile and you start seeing those patterns, you're like, okay, this is definitely like a broad audience is perceiving this thing. It almost has to be true.
It's really great perspective on receiving feedback, especially from a group. Nice. That's really good. I like that. Patterns and feedback. It's like its own topic.
I think people struggle with receiving feedback as well. And that's one of the big things that Toastmasters helps you overcome. People don't like to be criticized naturally, but when you do it in a very controlled environment with people you trust and respect and look up to, that's probably the best way you can grow. And one of the things I tell newer members is each feedback, like I said, is just one guy's opinion at one point in time over one thing that you did. You can discard it if you want to. If you're like, oh, I don't agree with what they said, you don't have to take it, but you always can. You can take it with weight or you can toss it away. And that's what's going to help you grow, is acknowledging that both you don't have to take it seriously, but the better you learn to do that and the more you learn to be astute and, pick up those patterns, that's going to help you a lot grow as a person.
I like that.
Something that came up for me, like as you were saying this, I was like, yes, because I was remembering that one of the things that I appreciate about Toastmasters is that it allowed me to hone and incorporate something I had learned in the military, which is to evaluate the source of information. And when you're receiving feedback, that you learn to know like how to trust at what. If Craig and Shane and you are giving me information, I have enough respect. I have a relationship built with you to understand the manner in which it's being given to. Like, you love me, you care about me, you respect me, and you want to provide information that is going to benefit my journey and what I'm doing. And if I'm getting information from like a guest and he's like, that was terrible, I hated it, I'm like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know you, I don't have the relationship, so I'm evaluating the feedback, and I don't have to resonate with it emotionally unless I need to, unless it is useful for me.
So that gives me a question, a very similar idea that I want to ask both of you. How do you deal with conflicting feedback? Let's say you get one sheet of paper and one guy says, oh, your vocal variety was amazing, I love how you use these highs and these lows. And then you get another slip of paper on the same exact speech, same performance, and this other guy says, oh, a little bit monotone, you should vary up a little bit. How would you guys handle something like that?
Go ahead.
You want to go first, Greg? Oh, yeah,
ahead.
of course. So I gave a speech one time where I came in and I pulled up a chair and I sat down in the chair, and that is where I delivered the speech from. I did not deliver it speaking. And then when I reviewed the feedback, I had people who were like, loved that you sat in the chair, hated that you sat in the chair. And it was like this, this direct, like very specific feedback about it. And there's an element of, I always take it as that is important to understand that no matter what you do, you can't please everybody. That's like you have to acknowledge that right off the bat. But again, evaluating where the information is coming from. And like you said, like, what do you do? I was like, the first thing I do when that happens, I laugh. I'm like, yeah, of course, this came across that way. Allow it to pass, allow it to pass over yourself, like whatever. It's information, you can do what you want with it. But again, looking at which person said this thing and then which person said the other thing. And sometimes like I was saying, like that can be a glaring difference. Like, oh, like this, Craig told me this thing, and oh yeah, he's paid attention to that stuff. I've seen him improve on that. So I really appreciate that feedback. And the person who said the opposite might have, was just being casual with it, or wanted to say something, or may have missed something I was trying to convey, whereas another person may have picked it up and noticed another way it could have been delivered better, or XYZ. And so like all of that comes in is like evaluating that entire process.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would say something like what you were saying earlier. The first thing that would go through my mind is it a new person to evaluation? And being a member of the club long enough, we know that. So I would default to the people that I respect the most and what theirs. And if those areas were the people that I respect the most with experience also disagree, well, then we're definitely dealing with personalities, which helps to know those individuals. And I would have to say that if you have contrary feedback, you're probably dealing with an element that probably does need improvement at some level. I default negative on stuff. Sometimes when I receive feedback myself, it's like, oh yeah, of course they think it was nice, they're just being nice. And I'm the type of person that would take the negative feedback and focus on that more. I have to be very careful with that too. But there's different learning styles. There's different opinions that everyone has. Humor and comedy, you guys know this with your experience doing improv with Shane at the comedy club, no doubt. Some things get a laugh. Some things do not. Sometimes you get a loud person up front that snort laughs at the silliest things, and you feel like maybe this was funny, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But those are those areas where you're going to get a mixed result. After a while, you'll probably develop a feel for something that's going to get a mixed result. And I think that you try to mitigate those over time, especially if you're speaking to large audiences. You'll know what the majority like and the majority don't like when you pay attention to that stuff. So just pay attention to all of it and control the controllables. Do you get a lot of conflicting feedback, Dylan? Have you seen that lately?
I do. It's
Interesting.
almost in every single speech that I get to very contradictory pieces of information. And it goes back to patterns. It's like, does this one fit the pattern? Like when I first started working on my vocal variety, I would get feedbacks as like amazing vocal variety. And then I'd have like 10 of them that were like, you should work on your vocal variety. And I'm like, one of these should be discarded.
That's the one.
Yeah.
I think that term is the thing that's confusing others in many cases as well. Like it isn't just whispering sometimes or being really loud at other times. That isn't the only element of vocal variety. And sometimes if that's all they're looking for, their definition might be too narrow. And I guess you would have to probe. Like it probably the best approach is to, if they wrote their name on there, ask them what you think they could have done better to improve.
I like that. That's good.
It's pretty direct, but yes, candid and efficient.
Yeah, a lot of times I will do something intentionally. I'm the kind of person that I don't like to stick to a formula. I like to try different things out. I'll like to try maybe a more aggressive. If you know who Jocko Willink is, if you've seen some of his speeches, they're very incisive, very direct, very clearly spoken, short sentences. Yes. I've played around with that delivery style, and some people just really don't like it. But when I do something intentionally and I receive feedback that was like, you know, you could have done this better, but I was actually aiming for it, that can get tricky for me to handle. And I'm wondering how you guys would handle a situation where you intentionally incorporate either something content-wise or delivery-wise, kind of like Evan was saying with his speech where he delivered sitting down. He did that intentionally. He wanted to do that. And then you received feedback that said, you know, I didn't like this. How did that influence your future speeches?
I always think back to Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee said, accept what is good, what is useful, what is helpful, and reject the opposite. And so if it is helpful, if the information is helpful in some way towards your goal and your process, to accept it in the manner in which it's given. But if it's not helpful, if it feels like this is them, you know, this seems like a you thing, you know, or whatever it happens to be, or it was obviously they missed something, because you gave a great speech and you did some excellent stage work with gripping the podium and then moving freely based on the content about being enclosed, being, you know, what was the word you know what I'm talking about? The word you used?
Trapped.
I'm trapped. Thank you. You said trapped and you held on to it like you were trapped in it. And then when you said I'm free, or like you felt more of that, you moved around the stage. I didn't even catch that, but it was brilliant. But I could also see someone being like, why were you holding the platform? And like, you know, come. So it's like, I always try to consider, is it possible that they missed something that I was subtly trying to get at? And even if and sometimes it's okay to be like, I don't know what this person was getting at, and just let it go. You know, just, I don't know. If it's helpful, cool. If it's not, oh, well.
Well, you also described something there a minute ago, Dylan, where you were talking about Jocko Willink, and that character is inimitable. I'm going to throw that word of the day right in there. Nice. Impossible to copy unless you get real close to the mic and you talk in a tone, something like this at this pace. Maybe you could copy Jocko.
I love that style. There's something so attractive about very short, very precise sentences. It's difficult for me to balance that because somebody who has written poetry a lot longer than I've written actual speeches, I've always leaned towards this, like, how can I be more descriptive? How can I give more information and paint this picture in people's heads? And then I see Jocko deliver like a very, very good speech, and it's just very incisive, very direct. And that's kind of a new thing that I've been loving to play around with. And also using the stage as well is something that I've been having fun with.
I love that, dude. One of the films that I think about sometimes is, what was it? Finding Forrester. It was Sean Connery in that, plays the role of that reclusive author. And the student takes some of the words that author was using to really find his own voice. And he gets in some trouble for it until the author comes out, no, everything's good in the film. But that was like, hey, you know, you borrow my words and that stuff. And I think borrowing someone's style and thing to play with that to find your own makes a lot of sense and will give someone a framework to scaffold from. It wouldn't be something that I would think is a negative thing in any way. I'm glad to hear you like experimenting with that sort of thing. And that's what you do. You listen to other people, you hear what works, and you're now a student of speaking. And that's a big part of it.
There's a really interesting component that you've kind of addressed, is especially when you're first exploring, like, okay, I'm public speaking and learning how to do it better. You find the voice that works best for you. That is what you're going to do. You're going to find that one. But then as you become a more accomplished speaker and you learn to grow, you're going to understand what voice will best deliver what you're saying and to shift it and how. So sometimes it's Jocko right there. And sometimes it's like, hey, this is what's going on. You're dropping it like this. You're trying to give that energy. And sometimes it's like, whatever, and chill.
Yeah.
And you got to learn, what vibe and how that voice plays into it. And it just takes time. It does.
And some voices don't go with certain styles. Like, for example, listening to Extreme Ownership on audiobook. I'd read the book before, but then listening to it, and it's Jocko actually reading it. I can't speed up his voice and have it work for me. I have to leave it at Jocko speed. I can't do 1.4 at time. It doesn't sound right. Same thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger's book where he's reading that Be Useful, great read. I can't speed him up. Breaks my brain.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes with a lot of different arts. One thing that I've learned with especially rap, interestingly enough, is you learn the rules to get started. Like you learn the formats that work, you learn these rules, and then you get to play around with them. Martial arts as well. Like when you're a white belt in any martial art, you have to learn your basics. Don't play around with anything fancy because that's not your focus. And then once you get your basics down, you're like, okay, now I can play around with the fun stuff. And then you get to this brown belt, black belt level, and for some reason you just go back to the basics. It kind of works this full circle around. You go back to the basics, and now you're mastering the basics. You know how to do the fancy stuff. So you can, when it works, you can do the fancy stuff when it fits the situation. Like when Evan was saying, if the speech is calling for it, you can. But you're going to stick to those basics, mastering your gestures, mastering your stage presence, mastering your vocal inflection, your content. You're going to stick to those basics through your whole journey, but it's fun to play around with it and see which elements can fit into which situations.
Just last night, I was looking at the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. He's talking about the martial art the whole time, his strategy very specifically. And then the last book is of the Five Rings, of the five books that is really short, the Book of Nothing. And is the best last page of a book I've ever read, because he's talking about all these things, all the stuff, all the strategy, that stuff that goes into it, understanding the spirit of the thing, constantly being mentioned throughout. Understand the spirit of the thing, contemplate the spirit of the thing, contemplate the spirit of the thing. And at the end, you are the spirit of the thing itself. Thus ends the Book of Nothing and the Book of Five Rings. It's like after you hit a point of that contemplation of it all, you understand something about it, and then you are free to make it yourself, understanding that it's what you put into it, that you make it yours. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's like one of those things you have to sit and ponder for a little while. But yeah, you're right. It's a scaffolded approach. I feel like you have to go through the structure first, and then you realize there is no structure. It's like creative writing classes. You can break every rule in poetry you want. The rules are there. It's interesting. Conform yourself to it. And now you can go write anything brilliantly.
Right. It's very strange that the bigger something gets in your life and the closer you analyze it, the less meaning it seems to have in the long term. You're like, oh, this is big. You're obsessing over this one thing. And then you get towards the end of it and you're like, oh, what does this even mean? What is the purpose of this thing? And it's fun to play around with the nuances.
Yeah, dude, man. And I love that what our club is doing throughout this contest is like, I think we're good at playing around with things. Toastmasters has a ton of structure. Our club doesn't follow all of it.
Oh, yeah.
We keep it a little bit more fun and exciting than most, I think.
I was just talking to Dylan at a meeting about that.
Yeah. What were you saying?
About how I wish we didn't have to follow the Toastmasters international format sometimes of like speeches, evaluations, break, impromptu speaking, reports closing. I wish that we could just, okay, well, now we're going to do dialogue and we're going to have people break into small groups and we're going to have people talk. There's so many things I wish we could do, but like that's not the way that the club organization is set up. And so we find unique ways and have found unique ways to do elements and parts of that. There's always ways to bend if you can't break a rule.
Yeah. Well, there's a tinge of tradition that is really nice to bring forward, and then we make it our own. And one of the things about the contest that really stood out is Dylan, definitely the youngest person there. That was a contestant, which I think plays out to your advantage.
I also think so. And it's funny because I got a couple of people before the speech that before the contest, rather, they were telling me, one person directly told me I wasn't going to win. I won't tell you exactly who it was, but one person directly said, you're not going to win because the people who win every single year are the old people that have been doing it for years and years. And they're in, like they know, like right. Yeah. They know all the people and they're like, you can't win because these people, they're in close with the judges and with the, people running the contest. And in my head, I had the opposing idea form as I was hearing people say this, is I was like, but do people want to see the people who have won time and time again, the people who have competed time and time again, the same faces, do they want to see that win? Or do they want to see a new up-and-comer? Do they want to see a young guy with motivation and with drive and with dreams to do something different, to do something big? Do they want to see that? And that's a hard question to answer, but I believe it could go both ways.
Mm-hmm. I think they want to see something new. I think everyone wants to see something new.
I've always heard it said you have to give them something they didn't know they wanted.
Yeah. Oh, you gave authenticity in that whole thing. It felt good. I felt very confident. It was close. What the other person who got second did pretty good. Well structured, well organized, no question. She had the audience moved. I saw it. But I drew 2 dots on my chart of like how I thought they were there. There's a gap there. And it's like, I know I was being unobjective with maybe a tinge of bias against you just to counterbalance any bias I might have. I felt sure. And I was right.
I remember stepping in though and looking at Craig. I was like, no, I think this one, I think this person, I was like the points. And then it came on my way and I was like,
yeah, he was totally right. I was off on one by like this much, dude. No, got to become a judge. All right. No, Dylan, last thing I wanted to mention, because while it was fresh in your mind, I want to know what your mindset was going in. And you expressed very clear confidence. And you had mentioned something that you had visualized victory so much, you felt certain yourself.
Yeah, that's just something that it's a mindset that I've developed over a long period of time, especially with weightlifting. That is where it came from. And it stuck with me in various different endeavors in my life. Is if you can imagine yourself lifting the weight, that is going to help you lift the weight. If I can imagine myself picking it up, or if I can imagine myself moving it, that's going to bridge that gap of confidence. You go into something and you're like, I don't know if I can do it. But if you can see yourself doing it in your mind, that tells you, oh, it's possible. And going into the speech, I had rehearsed this on my own. I had rehearsed it in front of the club. I had rehearsed it in front of close friends of mine. And every single time I would rehearse it, I would imagine myself, that is the winning speech, that the judges are voting for me. I'm winning the award. And I never saw it the other way. Mm-hmm. I never imagined myself attempting the weightlift and failing it. I never imagined myself going up to deliver a speech and getting second or third place. That's not the image. That's not the daydream that I have. I go up there, I give the speech, I win. That's the mindset. That's the daydream. That is the idea that I have. And I did that so many times that it almost seemed like an impossibility to me. Now, I was telling Evan before the contest that I wasn't very attached to it. And that's something that I also like to do as well, is I don't attach myself to this idea that winning is everything. Yeah. It's because if I don't win, I can try again, or if it doesn't matter that much to me, I can move on to something else. But at the end of the day, I win, it feels good. That's what I imagined. I don't win, it's not that big of a deal. We live to see another day. But that's what I was talking about, is I imagined myself delivering the speech and winning so much that it didn't seem like anything else could really happen.
Mm-hmm. Nice. That visualization is powerful stuff. All right, Evan, last thing I want to ask you, any advice for Dylan as he gets ready for the district level?
It's division. I keep telling
Division.
people this.
Thank you. I know.
It's division. It's
I
division,
get them
then
mixed up,
district.
even if I just read it 2 minutes ago.
It's division and then district.
Correct.
And I'm sure Dylan and I will have plenty of conversations outside of the podcast. But the advice I continually gave myself as I was preparing for my own speeches is, if it was the last speech you were going to give, would you be proud of it? That kept me of like, even if I lose, even if nobody likes it, was I still proud of the speech that I gave? And that helped keep me honest and humble, and also focused on what I was sharing.
Nice. That's good. Yeah. Sometimes you can run into the contests like this. Once it's in a contest, people get performative.
There is an element of performance that comes in, especially when you get up to the international level and you're competing against the videos you watched on the stage, where there's like all the
famous one of the guy with the cigarette.
You're putting on a show at that level. And so that is something to keep in mind as you continue to grow in this speech process.
Yeah. But keep it genuine and be proud of it.
A genuine show.
A genuine show.
Authentically entertaining.
Authentically entertaining. I like that phrase too. Beautiful stuff. Dylan, any other closing remarks you want to make?
I just want to say, for anybody listening, if you don't think you can do something, you're probably wrong. I didn't think that I could do this contest. Honestly, starting out, I didn't think I could do public speaking at all. And I didn't think I could do the contest. It seemed like too much pressure. It seemed like speaking at Club 404 is fun, as you guys mentioned. It's a laid-back atmosphere. It's fun. Speaking at a contest, there's something on the line, and that added something to the idea of public speaking that I didn't think I was ready for. And the truth is, I may not have been ready for it. I don't think I'll ever be ready for anything that I do, but I won't find out until I try.
Nice. And even this weekend, you're doing something new. You're playing your guitar at the comedy club, right?
Yes, for the first time, I will be doing musical improv. And also for the first time, I will be playing any instrument in front of an audience. For some reason, I've never done that before, and it's something that I need to do. I've been playing guitar.
Really surprises me.
Right? I've been playing guitar for almost a decade, and I have never performed guitar. I've played in like close-knit, just amongst friends and stuff, but never like gone out and, busked on the subway or out in the street or played at a bar or anything like that. I've never done that. And this is going to be that bridge of me releasing that other part of myself, that creative outlook.
No, me and the wife are looking forward to that. So, Evan, any closing remarks from you?
I think we've covered quite a bit.
We did.
We could talk all day.
We absolutely could, because our club seems to enjoy the company of each other. And the best part after that contest, in my opinion, when we asked Shane to pick a restaurant, and he says, the place right around the corner from here is really good. And what's the name of it? The name of the place is The Win. Great name for a bar. Great name to stop in there for a bite after the contest. Wow.
It was a good Reuben.
It was a great Cali Reuben, man.
Yes, we had multiple people confirming that.
Yep. No, we're going to do another episode here with some club members, especially when Shane's free. We want to do a topic on improv. He teaches improv. You guys have both been students of that art itself. I think there's so much value in that for people that are looking into getting outside of their comfort zone. Add the pressure of learning how to give a speech or just doing public speaking in general, and put the added pressure of trying to be funny while you do it. Yeah, I'm nervous for that. I would love to try sometime, but I can't think of anything on the spot. I don't know, man.
You just got to be yourself. It's less about trying to be funny and more about trying to react the way that you would.
My usual audience doesn't laugh at my jokes. They're my kids and their dad jokes.
Hey, but you think they're funny, and that's the most important thing.
I know they are. My wife thinks they are too, which is all that matters. Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this with us, guys. Dylan, great job. Congratulations on the win. Evan, thank you for being you, for the support you give our club, and Dylan, and everything that you're doing for our audience here, as a friend of the show. It's great to see you back here as well. Dylan, we're going to definitely want to talk with you again. Wonderful insights, dude. I just totally enjoyed this. Now, something for our audience here. Of course, if you have some topics you want to talk about, you want to hear about, email me, speakup@craigoneal.net. I'd love to hear your feedback and any comments and suggestions, anything you want to know, or maybe get in contact with our guest today. Happy to exchange information and get that permission to do so. And remember, there are other shows on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Remarkable Results Radio with Carm Capriato, Diagnosing the Aftermarket, A through Z with Matt Fonslow, Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest, the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast with Brian and Kim Walker, and the Weekly Blitz with Coach Chris Cotton. And I have to say again, once again, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for joining us. And Dylan, I'm going to say one more thing. I loved the most about your acceptance speech after you finished your speech in the club on Tuesday night. You said thank you. There was the applause, standing ovation. David Doughty, what is he now? Vice President of Membership, or I think he is, or one of those roles. One of the club officers, beloved member of the club, former president himself. You gave him a big old hug right as there, and it was beautiful, man. And you held on to that hug for just a little longer.
I'm hoping y'all didn't notice that I did shed a couple tears there. That was a very emotional moment for me as well. When I saw everybody stand up, you know how it feels. It wells up inside of you and you're like, I don't know if I can hold this one back, man. And then when David went in for the hug, and I was like, that's the straw that broke the camel's back right there. Here come the waterfalls.
Yeah. Oh, David, I love you too.
Yeah. I'll never forget that. Wonderful.
That's what the club's for, man. The amount of time and effort and energy we pour into each other and each week is just a beautiful thing. I love Mark Amos, our current club president. His slogan, show out, and then I'm throwing an addendum on it, show up, show out, and go in for the hug. We know how to do it all. This is good. All right, folks, thanks. Get out there now. Listen up, speak up, and show out. Thank you.
You've been listening to Speak Up, effective communication with Craig O'Neill on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Craig on your favorite podcast listening app and on his YouTube channel. Let him know what you'd like him to speak up about. Craig is all for advancing the automotive service aftermarket.